So, Elsie, if your best friend were to describe you, what would be accurate about that description?
Uh, they'd say I'm funny. I totally am. Um, I'm very helpful. I would bend over backwards to help anybody who needs my help, even if I have to lose sleep over it. And I like to have fun. I like to do things to people. I like poetry. I like art. Those are the ways that they'd describe me.
Elsie, you grew up in St. Kitts prior to arriving in Guyana in 2013. How did that culture help to shape this woman we have come to know as Elsie Harry?
Well, I have to be quite honest about what it was like for me growing up in St. Kitts. For my first few years, I felt like I didn't belong, like I was an outsider in somebody else's country. And I had to make a decision that I was not going to be depressed about it. I was not going to be down about it. And even if I couldn't earn the friendship of the people around me, I would at the very least earn their respect. So I studied really hard. I excelled at academics. I got involved in a lot of social activities. And through my involvement in those social activities, I found that I had a lot in common with the people my age. The only difference was our nationalities. And so I joined this organization called the St. Kitts National Youth Parliament Association. And basically, what we did is we would go and have mock parliament sittings, and we'd speak about issues that are specific to youth. And then we'd create position papers and present them to the actual parliament and say, this is our view on matters that affect us, and we want these things to be implemented. We don't want you to make decisions for our future. We want to make the decisions for our future. And over time, after we kept doing this, we actually became recognized as the premier youth organization in St. Kitts, and the government would come and ask us for our opinions on youth issues. So our form of advocacy was academic, and that worked for us. And then we moved on to social advocacy because it's not everything that academics can fix. When we had to go out on the street and stage a protest or stage a movement to see certain things get changed. So my activism career, so to speak, actually began in St. Kitts. And then when the politicians were behaving like they had no behavior really in parliament, we got up and we spoke out about it and we said, listen, you're our elected representatives and you represent us. And when the world sees you, that is the impression of us that they're going to get. So get your acts together, be respectful, be polite in parliament. And we staged a whole youth movement based on the behavior of politicians in parliament. So I returned I was here in 2012, starting out where I was going to be living once I came back in 2013 for good. So I was here in 2012, and then the move was official in 2013.
Why did you return to Guyana? What was so appealing about Guyana at the time?
Well, I would always visit Guyana, if not every year, every other year. And slowly but surely, I Guyana was became it became strange to me. Some of the things I couldn't understand, some of the places that I saw, they looked completely different from when I was little. The air was thick with despair. And I thought that, I was in St. Kitts doing so much in St. Kitts and that I could do the very same for Guyana. So when it was time for me to go to university, my parents suggested that I go to UWI actually. And the government of St. Kitts, they offered me a partial scholarship to go to the University of the West Indies. But I wanted to be at home. I wanted to do my part for Guyana because I always felt like, I'm Guyanese and I need to show up for Guyana in a big way. So I made the decision not to take the partial scholarship from the government of St. Kitts and to come to Guyana instead, knowing that I could afford the tuition fee at the University of Guyana. So that wouldn't be an issue for my parents. And that I could also do work in Guyana. So if you follow the timeline of me getting back to Guyana, I got here in August 2013, and immediately I joined National Youth Parliament of Guyana. I signed up to volunteer with the UGSS. I joined UGIAA. I joined Coffee 250 committee the following year in 2014. Like, I didn't waste any time because I knew that this is what I wanted. This is what I was coming to do.
Is this why you joined the protest against the increase in UT fees so you can make it more affordable?
Well, not I wouldn't call it the affordability, because the tuition fees increased when I was in my second year at the University of Guyana. So it went from being totally affordable to being out of the reach of some students. While I could afford it, there were students that could not. And the only reason I could afford it was because my parents live in St. Kitts. So basically, they're being paid in EC, and the exchange rate, I benefit from it. So when they send tuition fee money for me, that's fine. But I'm thinking about people who are living here whose parents are making $50,000 a month. And the tuition fee went from 127,000 to, I think, 177,000, something around that area. And then subsequent to that, they wanted to increase it again. And they were saying, oh, it's only 5%. They could increase 5%. They spend more than 5% when they go on party. And I'm thinking, you cannot decide that somebody can afford this when you are not in their shoes. There were people who dropped out of the university when the first increase was given, and they have not been able to complete their degree programs. So I knew for a fact that there were people who could not afford it. That is what fueled my decision to protest, because my tuition fees were already paid. If it was a matter of whether I could afford it or not, I didn't have to go and protest. But I was thinking about those other people that I knew personally, and those who I didn't know, who approached me and said, my mother can't afford that, or would send me a message on Facebook and say, could you please do something about this, because we legitimately cannot afford it.
You're successful. Did you get the results you anticipated?
Yes, we got together. We did a protest on we heard about the announcement on a Friday. The Monday morning, we came out and we protested along UG Road. And while we were protesting, we got I got a phone call saying that I was invited to a meeting later that afternoon. And the meeting was with the Vice Chancellor and the administration, because by then the media and everybody had picked up the story. And in that meeting in the afternoon, we basically got a chance to say how we felt about it. And I said in no uncertain terms that I think it's very unfair to institute an increase in the middle of the semester, not even at the beginning. And I said, I understand that the university reserves the right to increase tuition fees at any time, but the university should show consideration for its students. If the aim of the university is to educate future leaders, then you have to have some compassion for these students. And then I said, whether you decide to take back the 5% or not, I can tell you in no uncertain terms that I will not be paying it. And I will be advocating that the other students do not pay it either. Because if we agree to pay it, then they would have won, and they would feel like, they could do this at any point in time. But we had to stand up. We had to take a firm stance. We had to set the precedent that this is not the way how we do business. This is not the way how we treat our students, especially when we want them to have an education. So they reneged the 5%, and they said that they are going to renege it, but we must be aware that in this new semester, which is September 2017, there would be an increase, and that increase will be announced long before the semester began. So I didn't make any qualms about that.
I want to read a quote. My aim in life will remain not to conquer, but to effect positive change wherever I go, while increasing my knowledge to become a well-rounded citizen of the world. Your words. So
Yes.
how early in life did you actually start thinking like this of becoming a global citizen?
Well, I think that happened while I was living in St. Kitts, because I realized that I was not Kittitian. I wasn't born Kittitian. I was born Guyanese, but here I was living in St. Kitts and calling St. Kitts home and working towards the advancement of St. Kitts. And then I decided I wanted to do the same for Guyana. Then it became clear to me that it doesn't matter where you're born. All that matters is the place that you end up. And in any space that you end up, you should be willing to work and to assist and to develop that place as if it is your home. And that is why I see myself as a global citizen, because wherever I am in the world, I will be willing to work towards advancing youth, work towards developing that space that I'm in.
In October, I understand you will be attending the One Young World Summit in Colombia. What does that mean to you, Elsie, and what do you hope to contribute to that summit?
Well, it means that I get an opportunity to tell over 1,300 delegates and an additional number of counselors from about 190 countries about all the good things that Guyana has to offer the world. And also it means that as a young person, I'm going to have a platform to speak about the things that I believe in, to speak about some of the work that I've been doing, and to get some mentorship from the counselors that are actually going to be there, because Kofi Annan will be there and President Juan Manuel Santos of Colombia will be there. And as an international relations student, these are the people that I look up to for the work that they've done in the world. So that is what it means for me.
And what would you like to bring back to the young people that you associate with in Guyana from this particular summit?
Well, what I would like to bring back is efficiency in the way that we do things in Guyana. So, for example, we have a lot of volunteer organizations in Guyana, a lot of charities, but sometimes we don't see them, we don't hear them, we don't know about the work that they do. And a lot of these young people have actually perfected their art of volunteerism. They know how to use social media effectively. They know how to lobby governments effectively. Those are the skills that I want to learn how to perfect, to bring back to the young people in Guyana so that we can be more efficient in our volunteerism, in our activism.
Advocating for youth, for youth involvement rather. Why are you so passionate about that, Elsie?
Because I feel like the future is ours. I mean, older people always say, the future is yours, Guyana is yours, these problems that we have are yours to fix. And I'm thinking, you are creating problems for me and telling me these are my problems to fix? Okay, well, I want to have a say in what goes on now so that I am well aware of all the ins and outs of the problems that we are going to face in the future. And some of the problems that we currently face, young people have the answers to these problems. They have the solutions because we spend a lot of our time innovating, thinking, researching, even more than a lot of the older generations, because now we have all these things at our disposal. We have the internet. And I just want young people to play an active role in securing their future. I don't want somebody else to go and secure a future for me, one that I might not even want, one that might not even mesh well with my vision of the future for myself, and then say to me, here it is, and these problems, go ahead and fix them after they've created it. So I think that young people have to take charge of their future, and in order to take charge of their future, they have to be involved in decision making, in policy making. So that is why I'm so passionate about youth activism.
Elsie, it's difficult to listen to you and not think that you are passionate about Guyana, you love Guyana. I mean, it's why you're there and why you do a lot of these things. But when you hear the word Guyana, what comes to mind immediately?
I think of home. I think of love. I think of family. And I also think of potential. Because one of the things that I think, and I don't even know if we as Guyanese stop to think about it sometimes, is that Guyana has so much potential. Because when I compare us to the different countries in the region, we are so blessed. We have so many natural resources. We have so much food. We have so much fresh water, we have this lush vegetation. And now, of course, we have oil. And not only that, but if you look around the world, you would see Guyanese doing exceptional things. It means that this spirit of exceptionalism is in our genes. So when I hear the word Guyana, those are the things that I think about.
Your greatest pet peeve?
Sorry?
Your greatest pet peeve about Guyana?
My greatest pet peeve would be inefficiency.
Inefficiency.
Yes, when you go into government offices and you have to stand in these long lines and you think, why is this person just sitting at the counter, not even looking up at me saying, good morning, okay, I realize that a lot of you are waiting, but we're having some difficulties, we're trying to work it out. Or when you go to the University of Guyana, you go at the back by the administrative office. I go in and I say, good morning. And sometimes they don't even look up to answer me. I go and I say, okay, this is my problem. This is my query. They're like, I don't know about that. Go to this person. I go to that person. They say, I don't know about that. Go to. So I'm going around in circles. And literally, it takes a whole day to get a simple thing done. And I am thinking that if I make the example of myself, for example, I've worked on various projects in Guyana. And the things that I think that they take an entire week to do, I would try to find ways to get it done in a day or two. And I think that Guyana as a whole needs to relook at the service that it offers both its nationals and also people from abroad, because I think that one of the things that most people would complain about is the inefficiency of the services that they receive in Guyana.
There's an argument that young people are not getting enough attention or not opportunities. Young people, from my experience, are doing a lot of things in Guyana, a lot of wonderful things. You're on social media, you definitely have the pulse of contemporary society in the way we communicate today. You engage each other. Last year, there's one question I ask, a common question I ask everybody that came on the 5-part series. Do you have a problem with your friends assisting you? And everyone looked at me in shock, like, well, why would they not? And it just speaks to my generation in that people tend not to assist each other that much. But anyway, the question I want to ask you is, what are we missing? What is the diaspora missing? What are young people doing today? If you can sum it up, what are some of the things you're engaged in that we are missing? We are not engaging you enough. We're not paying enough attention. What would you say to that?
Well, I would say that the thing that young people are lacking, in my opinion, is mentorship. So, for example, you, Selwyn, you have this program that I'm currently on, CWS ASITIS. And that there might be young people in Guyana who are interested in doing something similar. If you were to mentor them, I think that, they could know upfront some of the challenges that you've had to deal with, and they wouldn't go and make those same mistakes, and they'd kind of have a smoother journey to getting to where you are currently. Mm-hmm. And I know that you do a lot of mentorship in other areas, but I think that there's not enough mentorship in all of the areas that young people want to get involved in. So for me, the biggest gap between us and the older generation, us and the diaspora even, is that link of mentorship. So, for example, there are even young people who want to get involved in politics. I want to get involved in politics. I want to run for public office. But rarely you will find that I can walk up to a government ministry and say, okay, can you please mentor me? There's always this fear that the young people are coming for their jobs, they're coming for their positions, and they have to protect it with their lives, or they're going to have their business startup and it's going to be better than the one that I created. But I mean, the more you share knowledge, the better it is for our country. You can help that young person to develop a niche, which is not the same as yours. And I think mentorship will put us in a better position than we are today. Because in St. Kitts, for example, I received a lot of mentorship. from people who are working in the same areas that I was working in, a lot of older people. And it's because of their mentorship and their molding that I'm the person that I am today. And I feel like a lot of young people my age, they say, oh, you're the exception, Elsie. But I'm not. I'm not the exception. I benefited from mentorship. I benefited from people caring enough to pass on their knowledge to me. And I think that that is what our young people in Guyana are lacking. More than funds, physical resources like cash and land, mentorship is the thing that I think that they're lacking more.
I can't conclude this conversation without noting that you want to be president one day. So congratulations on that aspiration. If you were to become president today, or
today?
Yes, just say you were elected president. You're now President Elsie Harry. What are 3 policies that you will immediately implement?
Okay, the first policy would have to be one geared towards revamping the education system in Guyana.
Okay.
And the revamping would actually include having arts education in the schools. That's 1. 2, business and entrepreneurship education. So there's this program called Junior Achievers that I've been a part of in St. Kitts, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel on anything. And it actually teaches young people to create their own business startups, sell shares for it, develop a product, sell it, make profit, and do the reporting on it. So those are 2 things that I would involve in the revamp of our education system. Cultural education, African Guyanese history. It's not taught in the schools, not to my knowledge. And I think that is important because as African Guyanese, we have experienced a lot of discrimination in Guyana, and it's even more than a lot of the other ethnic groups. I think that African Guyanese and the indigenous peoples are 2 of the most discriminated against groups in Guyana, and I think that an accurate and succinct history of how we got here, the contributions that we have made to Guyana, that we continue to make to Guyana, will do a lot for mending the ethnic problems that we have in Guyana. So that's one policy, a long one. The second one would be an environmental policy, because I worry that with the coming oil, the environment will suffer. So I would like to see a lot of the young law students that exit UG actually study environmental law, so that we could have some policies put in place to protect our environment, even as we go about pursuing an oil economy. The third I would implement would be geared towards having a quota for women in politics or in governance in Guyana, because I think that Guyana needs more estrogen. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a woman, but I think that if we look at the female leaders that we've seen around the world, and we look at the female leaders that we see in Guyana that have not gotten the opportunity to or have not branched into politics, I think that the leadership that they show outside of political office can be transferred into political office. And I just don't want a lot of female placeholders, but we want sensible female leaders. So that's the third policy.
You see, Elsie, I'm sitting here enthralled, and I'm thinking, I'm happy that you came. I was really moved. Wonderful points you made here this afternoon. But I am going to make a conscious effort to bring you back sometime to have a conversation, because there are lots of points that you touched that we need to expand on, right? And so I'll be in touch with you, and I'll let you know where you can come on and talk some more, whether it's a panel discussion or so on. But thanks a lot.
No problem. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Elsie. Bye-bye.
Very nicely done.